Howdy, y'all. This is CJ here, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be reacting to the Fat Electrician and America obliterates half of Iran's navy in 8 hours. Operation Praying Mantis. Now, can't wait to see what this is all about. But I got my shirt on for the Fat Electrician, showing my support. If you guys want to see more of his videos, I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description below, along with the link to this video as well. Now, I highly recommend you guys go and watch it. That way you can watch the entire thing without me interrupting. But, with everything said and done, let's go ahead and get started. Actually, before I do, I wanted to let everybody know that has currently been watching. I'm going to try to put everything on a schedule to where Mondays would be the music reactions, Tuesday will be the historical Fat Electrician day. Wednesday, I'm going to try to make that a day for like trucking videos or other thing revolving around trucking. Like one of the things I want to do is I want to actually kind of help new people who want to go into the trucking industry, kind of help them understand some of the things that they're going to need to know. But that being said, I'm also thinking about having like Thursdays as like a comedy day. So if you guys have any recommendations for any of those days, let me know in the comments below. But and if you guys like my reactions, be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. But let's go ahead and get into this. Bring up the video, and let's get started.
Ah, yes, the time that the US Navy got upset and destroyed half of Iran's entire naval fleet in a single 8-hour workday. Today we're talking about Operation Praying Mantis. But real quick, this video is sponsored by Zydax Custom Gaming PCs. They are all built right here in America with American-based tech support and a lifetime warranty. It's the computer that I use and the one that I would recommend. I'll have them linked down below if you want to check them out. Let's get to this video. All right, important background info. 1980, Iraq decided to invade Iran. Why? Don't really care. Not pertinent to the story. However, at the end of that war, Iran decides, hey, we're going to pull a page out of the old Art of War by Sun Tzu. We're going to cut off the enemy supply lines, deprive the enemy of nice things. It's going to work out great. Iraq's got a weak navy. We're going to wipe out their navy, and then every time they send out an oil tanker through the Persian Gulf, we're going to blow that up. So they can't sell any liquid dinosaur. They can't make any money. They go broke. We win the war. Hooray.
A lot of armies in the past has actually used strategies like this before. Roman warriors during the Roman Empire, some of their strategies involved, waiting out the enemy in their castle. Or any army, they would surround the castle, basically keep it from being able to get resources from the outside of the walls, and then basically starve them out. It was a very time like a very it took time to do so, but it definitely worked. It was not but it definitely wasn't a time critical thing. Like it took days to weeks possibly. But let's go ahead and get back.
It's a solid plan. So they do exactly that. Then Kuwait comes out of left field and they're like, hey, we've been financially backing Iraq through this entire war for the past 7 years. We need to make sure they win so we can get our money back. So we're going to go ahead and let Iraq use our oil tankers to export oil. So Iran is like, well, that's an easy problem to solve. I'll just blow up all the Kuwaiti oil tankers as well, which is exactly what they do. But here's the catch. Kuwait at this point in time is like the one major exporter of oil that wasn't really part of OPEC, meaning that they were selling oil on the global market market significantly cheaper than everybody else, driving down the entire oil market. And now that their oil tankers are getting blown up as well, it means that Kuwait can no longer sell oil on the cheap, meaning that Iran has now inadvertently committed the cardinal sin of the late 20th century, raising gas prices. Now the entire Western world looks over at the Persian Gulf like, the fuck? The ghost of Sun Tzu's.
That's a nice Lord of the Rings reference. I like it. Freaking Eye of Sauron, just looking down. Let me try to make this a little bit smaller. There we go.
Sitting there shaking his head like that's the one exception. I would have messed with any supply line except for that one, because we all know what happens next.
Maybe. U.S. military gets involved.
Yeah, America then proceeds to assemble the largest naval convoy operation since World War II, send them into the...
If anybody is curious, I am actually a Navy brat. Both my parents were in the Navy. They actually met in the Navy. And yeah, it was something to throw out there.
Persian Gulf to protect Kuwaiti oil tankers. It is at this moment that Iran should have been like, well, that's unfortunate, time to figure out plan B, because this obviously is not going to work out. However, they decide that they're going to double down. What they're going to do is they're going to take a bunch of magnetic underwater mines, and they're just going to spread them out all over the Persian Gulf in international waters, and that's not going to have any consequences at all. So fast forward, April 14th, 1988, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, a guided missile frigate, which is basically brand new at this point, this is like its first big operation, is out there escorting a Kuwaiti oil tanker, and it runs into a minefield, hits a mine, blows up the keel of the ship. The keel is this bottom part right here. It like supports and stabilizes the structure of the entire ship, and it gets blown completely in half. At this point, the only thing holding this boat together is the actual deck. 1 second, everything's fine. The next second, there's a 15-foot wide hole in the bottom of your ship. Everything's on fire and water is rushing in. The USS Samuel B. Roberts took on half of its weight in water in the first minute. This is a catastrophic amount of damage that would sink 99% of ships, but as fate would have it, the crew of the USS Samuel B. Roberts had already been winning competitions for having the best damage control crew in the Navy. So the entire crew gets to work. They're putting out fires, they're plugging holes, they're literally cinching the hull together with steel cables, trying to stabilize it, because the only thing holding it together is a deck at this point. Over the course of the next 5 hours, the entire crew fights their ass off and somehow manages to get the situation under control and limp the ship all the way back to Dubai, where they can get it to a port. And the most incredible part of all of it, not a single American was killed, only 10 men were injured during the fire and the initial explosion. So the crew survived, the boat's basically completely destroyed. Then America sends in an underwater crew, figure out what happened, they find the...
Which is awesome. The fact that the entire cruise was fine with the, with the exception of a few people that were injured, that is a very good day or they were very fortunate that nobody was lost. I can just imagine the repercussions if someone had passed away from this. I'm willing to bet the repercussions would have been so much worse. We don't mess around.
remnants of the mine. They check out the other mines. Yep, they're Iranian. At this point, now somebody has to inform the president, because this is a big deal. And the president at this point in time is, let me check my notes, fucking Ronald Reagan.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
So they go ahead and they brief Ronald Reagan on everything that happened. He's super happy that everybody survived. And he's like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to issue a proportional response. And what the U.S. Navy heard was awesome. All right, so here's the plan. Iran currently has 3 oil rigs in the Persian Gulf that are not being used.
You hit our ship, going down. That's what it's going about.
Used for drilling oil, but as military bases for their naval operations. So the U.S. Navy is going to go ahead and take out all 3 of those. Now, I don't really know what the guided missile frigate to oil rig exchange ratio is, but we're going to go ahead and err on the side of caution and say that it's not quite proportional enough yet.
Of course not. You gotta do way worse.
So Iran also really only has like 2 modern naval vessels. That's the Iranian frigate Sahand and the Iranian frigate Sabatland. They're going to go ahead and take out at least one of those, maybe both. We'll see how proportional they want to get. And then by the time they get all that done, that should be a nice 8-hour workday. It'll be time to clock out and go get some ice cream. So in order to get all this done by quitting time, they're going to go ahead and establish 3 different...
You want strawberry or chocolate? Or you want vanilla? We have some Rocky Road over here too. So
surface attack groups. Each group is going to have 2 destroyers and 1 bonus ship. That bonus ship is either going to be an amphibious landing ship or a frigate. Either way, they're all going to be identified as Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. Bravo group is tasked with taking out 2 oil rigs, Charlie group is tasked with taking out the 1 remaining oil rig, and Delta's mission is to go hunt down those 2 frigates and take them out. And then, just for insurance purposes, we're also going to have the USS Enterprise parked right outside the Persian Gulf to provide air support, you know, in case we need it. So, April 18th, 1988.
I like the flight deck. It says E equals MC squared. Basically, what comes around goes around.
4 days after the mining of the USS Samuel B. Roberts, Operation Praying Mantis goes into full swing, and Bravo Group shows up at their oil rig first. At which point they radio over to the oil rig and inform them that they will be blowing it up in 5 minutes and that they should all leave. So, a bunch of people start leaving. They hop in tugboats and take off. Bravo Group, seeing that they're making an honest effort to actually evacuate, agrees to give them 15 more minutes. So, fast forward 20 minutes later, they send out another radio message, "Hey, time's up." They then fire the 5-inch guns right over the top of the oil rig with the rounds set to airburst, hopefully scaring off any stragglers. And it is at this point that some Iranian military member decides that he is going to audition to be the main character of this story because he hops on a 23mm anti-aircraft gun and opens fire on Bravo Group. And without skipping a beat, one of the 5-inch guns on one of the destroyers just goes "Nyeh!" Poof, and just fucking direct hit smokes this dude. Barely touches the rest of the oil rig. This guy, definitely not the main character, but the silver lining, he at least made it into the credits as Baloney Miss Cloud #1. Now, obviously, I'm...
What happened to Greg? You know, you don't want to know what happened to Greg. Greg went bye-bye. I was standing right next to him, too. Just gone. Well, maybe I wasn't standing right next to him. I was a few feet away, but I definitely saw what happened. But, man, trust me. He was gone in a second.
paraphrasing here, but at this point, Bravo Group radios over to the oil rig one last time, something along the lines of, "Hey, does anybody else need to find out what it's like to chew 5 gum? Or are you fuckers ready to quit?" The oil rig finally radios back and is like, yeah, please cease fire. We're gonna leave. So all the Iranian military members leave. Bravo Group decides to open up on it for a little bit with the 5-inch guns before sending over a couple of Hueys full of Marines. The Marines hop out, place some demo charges, hop back on the helicopters, take off. The entire oil rig blows up, and already things are getting more proportional. And while all that was happening, Charlie Group made it to their first oil rig as well, and pretty much the exact same thing played out. The only differences were Charlie Group didn't have Marines to place the demo charges, they had Navy SEALs, and when the Iranians opened up with the 23mm anti-aircraft guns, they just decided to keep firing 5-inch shells at the oil platform until it burst into flames and burnt the entire thing to the ground. At which point, the commander of the destroyer kind of looks over at the Navy SEALs and is like, "Sorry, I guess you guys get to sit this one out."
Oh, mission got canceled? Good.
And while all that...
Honestly, I've met a couple of Navy SEALs, and like I feel like that they look forward to these special missions a lot more than they probably should. Like, I literally was walking past a couple of Navy SEALs once, and they were just raving about how they can't wait to get out there. And I'm like, wow, that is dedication. Yeah, they are. When they get the order, they're ready and they're willing, and there's not a lot that's going to stop them.
Going down, Bravo Group's already making their way over to the third oil rig, at which point they pick up something on radar, and it's definitely another enemy ship headed right towards them. And at this point, you have to remember, this is the late 1980s. None of the American sailors have seen naval warfare on this scale. The pucker factor is on. They are getting harpoon missiles ready, and they are about to get in like one of the biggest naval fights since World War II. At which point, whoever's in charge of Bravo Group decides to take a deep breath, and they're like, okay, let's send up a helicopter real quick just to verify that it's actually an enemy ship. So the helicopter goes up, radios back to Bravo Group. It's definitely a warship, but it's a Soviet destroyer. At which point everybody's like, what? What is happening right now? So they radio over to this Russian destroyer and they're like, what are your intentions? And the Russian commander radios back in broken English. I swear to God, this is a real quote. I'm just here to take pictures for history. Look, I know that I bash on the Soviet Union and communism every single chance I get, but this time around, I gotta give it to them. These guys know how to party. Just straight up rolling into the middle of the largest naval operation since World War II to eat popcorn and watch. It's incredible. At this point, Iran finally figures out that there's something going on, but they don't really know what, so they just begin attacking any ship they can find, and the first ship they found was a civilian cargo ship called the Willie Tide, that they begin attacking with Boghammer-style speedboats. So the Willie Tide radios for help, the USS Enterprise responds by sending up a bunch of A-6 intruders, as well as F-14 Tomcats. The A-6 intruders show up, start dropping cluster bombs, they end up hitting one of the speedboats and scattering the rest. The civilian cargo ship is saved, hooray, cutting back to Charlie Group. Now there's an Iranian fast attack ship coming right at them. So they radio over like, hey, yeah, we're kind of going around blowing up all your stuff, but also we've got a very specific list. You're not on it. So how about you just go away and we'll forget we saw you.
You're not on my list. Beat it. Just leave. You don't want none of this. Just turn around, go away.
Iranian fast attack ship messages back, sounds good, we'll do that. And then they just keep driving right towards them. And then this Iranian fast attack ship gets within like 15 miles of Charlie Group, which is like point blank range for a naval battle. Charlie Group radios again, dude, what are you doing? To which they respond, I'm following orders. And then they proceeded to lock their radar on Charlie Group, which Charlie Group can see. At which point Charlie Group immediately launches 5 missiles directly at the Iranian vessel. The Iranian vessel fires a harpoon missile back at Charlie Group. Both groups now have missiles in the air screaming towards one another. The Americans launch countermeasures, shooting up chaff rockets that end up catching the harpoon missile, detonating it in midair. The Iranian vessel, on the other hand, did not have any countermeasures capable of stopping the newer technology behind the American missiles, and it would end up getting sunk pretty much immediately. Then, before anybody can really even fully digest what just happened, radar picks up 3 Iranian F-4s screaming towards Charlie Group. Charlie Group then turns, fires a bunch of surface-to-air missiles at the F-4s. The F-4s see them coming. They're like, oh shit. They pop a U-turn and try to outrun them. F-4s, while they are extremely fast, can't outrun missiles, so one of the missiles ends up blowing a wing off one of the F-4s. Now America has taken out an entire naval vessel and an F-4 that they did not plan on taking out, and it's throwing off all of our proportions. And because of that, American leadership orders Bravo Group to stand down. We're not going to go take out that third oil rig. And right as soon as that order gets given out, Delta Group chimes in, is like, hey, we found that frigate we were looking for. So now nobody knows what to do, because on one hand, things are already getting out of control, but on the other hand, we really want to take out these frigates. So American leadership decides, well, we might not even have to make a hard decision. Maybe that's not even the frigate and the radar's wrong. Why don't you go ahead and send a couple A6 intruders over, do a flyby. They can verify that it's actually this new modern frigate, and if it is, we'll make a decision from there. Or so they thought, because the A6 pilots are about to decide that they are in fact the main characters of this story. You see, the USS Enterprise and its aircraft aren't really supposed to be doing a whole lot. They're more or less just there for insurance. In fact, they're only allowed to engage the enemy under one of 2 conditions. One, the President of the United States signs off on it, which is actually what happened with the speedboats earlier. Or 2, they get fired upon first. So they got told to go fly by this boat to verify that it is in fact the new modern frigate, but they didn't get told how to fly by the boat, so they drop down 50 feet above the water and just gun it, and they buzz the entire ship. So the ship opens fire with its AA guns, but these planes are so low to the water, the AA guns can't actually aim down low enough, so all the anti-aircraft fire goes right over the top of them. They continue to stay low enough till they get out of anti-aircraft gun range, and then they pull up, at which point the ship launches a bunch of surface-to-air missiles at them. They drop chaff as a countermeasure, takes care of those, no big deal. They then go around, do a U-turn, send a radio message to this frigate, I'm going to sink you now. Which they can now legally do, because remember, the ship fired on them first.
You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
So the A6 fires an anti-ship harpoon missile, and the second they pull the trigger on that, the fire control team from the USS Enterprise is like, what the fuck are you doing? We're not supposed to be killing things yet. And the A6s are like, look, They fired at us first. Them's the rules. And the USS Enterprise is like, holy shit, okay, I guess. Let him have it. Then the Harpoon missile finally makes impact. It's a bullseye. The A6s do a U-turn, go, drop another 500-pound laser-guided bomb right through the deck of this frigate, fly past it, do another U-turn, come back, drop a 1,000-pound bomb on it. Then they radio over to the Enterprise and like, yeah, it's definitely gonna sink. We're gonna head back. So the A6s take off, headed back to the Enterprise, and like 5 minutes later, Delta Group shows up with their warships and begin firing on the already sinking frigate. They hit the magazine, the frigate explodes, rapidly sinks to the ocean floor. At this point, naval leadership is like, okay, Jesus Christ, everybody stop killing things. We need to figure out what all happened. We got to keep this proportional, remember.
Nah.
So they start radioing back and
just
forth. Everybody's figuring out what
go
everybody
full ham.
did, if anybody's hurt, what's going on, the whole story. And then as the A6s are making their way back to the USS Enterprise, guess what they happen to fly past? The other modern frigate. So now the entire US Navy's looking at this last frigate like SpongeBob looking at a jug of water.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I need it!
I'm sorry. Just every time I see SpongeBob, it's like I've watched the show as a kid, and just thinking back on it now and the ridiculousness of the show. The only thing I can think of when I see the show is just F logic, because there's a lot of that in the show.
But also, like, realistically speaking, the A6s are pretty much out of ammunition. The only thing they have left are 2,000-pound bombs, and those just aren't going to be enough by themselves without a Harpoon missile to take down this ship anyways, so they really are just going to fly by and verify that it's the modern frigate. So the A6 intruders go ahead, they do their flyby. It is in fact the new frigate that they thought it was, and it does in fact open fire on the A6s. A6s make it out completely unscathed, at which point they pop a U-turn, and one of the A6 pilots is like,
It's the bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home.
So the A6 pulls up, gaining altitude, and then dives down, aims its nose right at the frigate at like a 35-degree angle. They're doing a good old-fashioned dive bombing run like it's fucking World War II. The AA guns start firing, there's bullets whizzing past the plane, but they're committed now. They're closing in, closing in. The bombardier behind the pilot lets the pilot know, hey, I'm locked on. At which point, bombs away, the pilot pulls up, and the bomb goes right down the fucking smokestack of this boat. Blows up, completely destroying the entire engine room. That frigate is now dead in the water with no power. The A6s go ahead and radio in that they have completely disabled this frigate, at which point the American leadership calls a complete ceasefire. They're gonna go ahead and let that frigate survive, get towed off, potentially be repaired. With the US Navy having effectively disabled or destroyed over half of Iran's functioning navy, the US military decides to call it a good day, ends Operation Praying Mantis, we all get to live happily ever after. Except, later that night, Iran decided that they wanted to fight a little bit more, and they launched a bunch of Silkworm anti-ship missiles at American vessels. Luckily, no American vessels were actually hit. However, this is now a huge political problem because America has been mad at the fact that Iran even had Silkworm missiles for years at this point, and the American government has made it very clear to Iran that if they ever used them, they would be going to war with America, period. That's set in stone. So the Reagan administration, not wanting to kick off World War III in the 1980s, reaches out to the Iranian government and is like, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go ahead and admit that that was an accident. I'm going to sweep it under the rug and we're never going to talk about it again, because if this makes headline news and the American people find out, I'm going to have to get real proportional around here. So Iran's like, okay, fine, whatever, it was an accident, let's sweep that whole thing under the rug, but I am still going to take America to international court to try to prove that it was a war crime to take out my oil rigs, that way I can get reparations and make America pay for it. So they go to international court, they lay out the case. The international court is looking at America like, okay, well, first of all, you're the fraction people. I don't know how you think that this is proportional, but it definitely wasn't. Second of all, according to the Amity Act, you absolutely should not have attacked their oil rigs. This is probably a war crime. At which point the representative for America is like, well, actually, if you read the Amity Treaty between Iran and the United States, it only talks about ships and boats. It don't say shit about oil rigs, meaning I wasn't obligated to not attack those oil rigs. At which point the court is like, hold on.
Yeah, find it, can you?
Fucking, he's right, son of a bitch. Okay, well, I guess America's innocent, because I've said it once and I'll say it again. It's never a war crime the first time. And now for the best part of the entire story. America now proceeds to go over to Dubai, pick up what's left of the USS Samuel B. Roberts, tow it all the way back to Maine, then take the ship out of the water, get it in dry dock, cut out the entire damaged section of the ship, including the engine compartment, build another module to fit in its place. This thing weighs like 300 tons. They jack it up, weld it right where it's at, get everything rehooked up, reconnected. And this boat is back out on the ocean 1 year later on April 1st, 1989. It then goes on to get recommissioned and serves in the Navy until 2015. I mean, playing Battleship against America's gotta suck, right? Like, haha, I've sunk your frigate, and America's like, first of all, no you didn't. Second of all, fuck your entire Navy as it picks up your board and just throws it at the wall. So in conclusion, if you do ever find yourself being the leader of a foreign nation one day, the best advice that I can possibly give you is A, do whatever you can to not raise gas prices, and B, whatever you do not fuck with America's boats. We do not like that shit. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is like, comment, subscribe, maybe go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
Alright. See if there's anything at the end of this video. Nope. Okay. Alright. So, that was the Fat Electrician and Operation Praying Mantis. Sorry, I'm backwards, G. Now, I have a question. When he was talking about them jacking up jacking up that portion of the ship to, weld it into place, am I the only one that was imagining a giant floor jack just... I'm sorry. That's the only thing that came to mind. I know it's not what actually fit. It was just something that came into my head. But that was the Fat Electrician. If you want to watch more of his videos, I'll put a link to his YouTube channel down in the description below, which I highly recommend you do. He has made really good videos. I have enjoyed watching his videos. Now, there was another recommendation for another video from the Fat Electrician in my last video, and I will get to that one. But for the time being, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button so the algorithm helps me and we can get up to whatever I need to get up to. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But as you can see, it's already I've been up all night. But for now, we'll go ahead and end this video because I'm honestly not thinking straight anymore. So, I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a great day.